if a husband can complete a woman's life,
that woman could get whatever man she wanted.
bring her love and security,
There was a total of $32,000 in life insurance policies.
why stop with just one? Today, Twin Falls, Idaho is a popular tourist spot. But in 1914, it is a harsh frontier town.
The early promoters of Twin Falls really exaggerated the promise that this area had. Life was not easy for early settlers.
So anyway, we can now stable 5 horses at once.
The Dooley brothers, Edward and Robert, are lured to the promised land. It proves lucky for Robert. He meets and marries local girl, Lyda.
There, sweetie.
She married at age 19 or 20, and they had a perfectly normal relationship.
Isn't she the cutest little girl I've ever seen?
They had a daughter. They appeared to be just like the rest of the residents around town.
You know what? I'll show you.
But the young couple's happiness is cut short. Robert's brother Edward suddenly dies.
I can't believe he's dead.
He was a good man.
There was nothing suspicious about the death. It was ruled as, food poisoning or typhoid.
Edward's death brings one comfort: his life insurance.
She and her husband had talked him into taking out a life insurance policy and naming her husband and Lyda as the beneficiaries.
1,000 would go to his brother, and 1,000 would go to Lyda if he died.
Robert, how would I cope if you suddenly died?
Life is fragile.
And little Lorraine.
Lyda wants more protection.
Robert, you have to ensure you're alive. For us.
Don't fret, my dear. Whatever you want.
Robert's pledge is timely. He is dead just weeks after his brother.
And there was a huge influenza epidemic that killed a lot of people. These deaths never raised any suspicions.
But tragedy isn't done with Lyda yet. She suffers a mother's ultimate loss: the death of her young daughter.
Little children died all the time at that period of history.
She probably got a lot of sympathy. Oh, that poor woman, she's lost her daughter, her husband, all to this stomach flu.
Grief-stricken, Lyda has sympathy and money to comfort her. And soon, a new man.
Lyda appeared to be a rather homely woman, but she could wrap any man that she set her eyes on right around her finger without any effort at all.
Lyda's second husband was William McAfee, and he was also from Twin Falls.
The couple make a fresh start in Montana.
Well,
But tragedy follows them. Within 15 months, William is bedridden.
With husband number 2, William McAfee, when he died, They said that it was from influenza.
Lyda is alone again, but not for long.
Lyda's third husband was Harlan Lewis. She married him within months after the death of her second husband.
Is Lyda addicted to love or something more substantial?
When she got married the next time, she made sure her husband had a $10,000 policy.
The fact that the life insurance policies grew from each husband was kind of a sign. I mean, she was manipulating the men to take out policies.
Lyda was motivated by one thing and one thing only: greed. She wanted money.
But Lyda has only just started. In the early 20th century, 26-year-old Lyda Trueblood's family seemed to be cursed. In 4 short years, 2 husbands, her daughter, and a brother-in-law all die. Third husband, Harlan Lewis, is following the pattern.
Darling, stop.
The doctors say he has food poisoning. Lyda knows better.
Lyda Trueblood was very careful. She waited until the person actually got sick.
Eat.
Then it was easier to be believed that that person died of illness.
We have to get you strong again.
Just 1 month after marrying Lyda, Harlan is dead.
Everybody thought it was something he ate that finally did him in. But all it had been really was Lyda Trueblood.
She received $10,000 from Lewis's life insurance policy, and that is an incredible amount of money for those days.
Lyda was flamboyant. She drew attention to herself. She bought a car, a mink coat. Both of those things say, "Look at me."
Rich and single Lyda is on a roll. She quickly charms husband number 4, ranch foreman Edward Meyer. But the blushing bride is pushing her luck.
She didn't wait for him to get sick. Maybe she grew impatient.
And that was probably the mistake she made in all of this.
This time, it's not the insurance company Lyda needs to worry about.
One of the people who were suspicious was Earl Dooley, who was a pharmacist. He thought, this is too much dying around her. This doesn't make sense.
Curiosity leads Earl to the latest death scene. He collects traces of Edward's vomit.
He scraped up the sand, and he took that sand into his lab and he tested it.
For Earl, it's personal. Lyda's first victims, the Dooley brothers, were his cousins.
Sure enough, he found arsenic. So when that happened, he went to a doctor to get it confirmed in another lab, and it was definitely arsenic.
For centuries, arsenic is a weapon of choice for deadly women. But Lyda gets her source in a most unusual way. She meticulously extracts tiny amounts from the common pest killer, fly paper.
She poisoned their food, and over time, the arsenic would build up. Most of the death certificates all said some sort of stomach ailment.
Investigators exhumed the bodies of Lyda's late husbands, brother-in-law, and daughter.
Lyda went about her killing very deliberately. When she bought out everything the store had in flypaper, it was obvious that she wanted to have a permanent supply on hand. You wonder, did they ever suspect that it was not a natural illness that was making them suffer in agony? We can only hope that they never understood what was really happening.
She receives the dubious title of Flypaper Lyda.
Lyda Trueblood was a classic Black Widow, and she did it for money.
In 1921, Lyda Trueblood is found guilty of second-degree murder and receives 10 years to life. But the prison bars aren't secure enough to hold this conniving woman.
She had loosened up a bar in her cell and climbed a rose trellis to scale the wall.
The Merry Widow skips town, only to resurface in the arms of husband number 5.
She had married a naval officer who thought she was just the most charming woman. Said that she was a model wife.
So why do you want to see my wife? I mean, she's done nothing wrong.
Nothing wrong, you say?
Her freedom is short-lived. Police track her down just in time to save victim number 7. But Lyda Trueblood will get another chance at freedom. After 20 years in jail, she is released in 1941.
I think they figured that she had lost most of her good looks and charm and was no longer a menace to society.
When she finally died, it was from a heart attack. It's amazing to think that Lyda actually had a heart.
The idyllic town of Skene, Scotland.
3 kids.
Okay, 3.
It's the new home to American couple Teresa and Pasquale Riggi.
They were the all-American couple who seemed to have it all. They moved because of his job to the United Kingdom in 1990, and thereafter, for a period of several years, were very happily married couple.
They put down roots and start thinking about raising a family in Scotland.
So do you know what the success rate for IVF is?
But a natural pregnancy eludes them. They turn to IVF. It takes several years, but finally, in December 2001, the gift they want, twin boys. Friend Amber Siebold remembers the joy.
She seemed like a very loving mother, very kind and very together as well. She was always immaculate. Her children were always immaculate. You know, they were always well fed.
Teresa's besotted by her boys. She puts them before everyone else, even her husband.
Teresa immediately banished her husband from their marital bed and brought the babies into the bed and slept with them there.
Scotland and IVF turn out to be wonderfully fruitful for the Riggis. Pasquale is earning good money, and after 3 years, they have another child, daughter Cecilia. But Teresa's love for her children is starting to become an obsession.
Princess party next year?
Yeah.
She didn't let her children socialize with anybody around them, largely keeping them inside the house.
You want to have a princess party for your birthday?
TV reporter James Matthews discovered it wasn't just the children staying indoors.
She didn't engage with the outside world to any degree herself.
It's very nice for you to color that.
Mom, why can't we go to school like other kids?
Teresa didn't even trust the education department, insisting on homeschooling them.
You're much safer here with me.
She had talked about how she had a hard time in high school, and that's why she wanted to homeschool her children.
They need to interact with other kids. Why can't you see that?
They're not going, and that's final!
Obsessed with her children, Teresa leaves her husband out in the cold.
I want a divorce.
Pasquale now has little sway in the household. The two parents drift apart.
She talked about, you know, their differences in sort of parenting from the beginning, and they just became her all as soon as they were there. So nobody else mattered anymore.
Finally, Pasquale has enough. He moves out of the family home. Teresa reacts badly, not because her husband leaves her, but he now has visitation with their children for 4 hours every week.
She was absolutely devastated. She just couldn't imagine even 4 hours a week without them.
Teresa Riggi had, among other things, a paranoid personality.
No one is safe from Teresa's paranoia.
I had an Easter party at my house that her and the children came to. She had little sort of locator things.
Can we go now?
So if she couldn't see them, she would just press the button and it would beep. If they were out of her sight for a second, she would be, "Yeah, where are you? Austin, where are you?"
Luke?
Just getting upset.
Look what I found!
Austin?
Putting electronic tags on the kids was an example of the crazy thinking that was going on in her head. That's an extreme thing to do to little kids.
Where have you been?
Just over there.
Well, that's not good enough. I told you to come straight back when you heard the beep.
Alarmed by this sort of behavior, Pasquale decides he has to act. He petitions for full custody of all 3 children. Teresa could soon lose everything, but she has no intention of letting that happen.
I just remember her saying if he ever got custody of them, you know, he would never see them again, something along those lines. And what I really remember is her face, because it was like pure determination. You know, she wasn't gonna let that happen under any circumstances.
3 kids.
Okay, 3.
When California couple Teresa and Pasquale Riggi first moved to Scotland, they wanted a family. And with some help from IVF, They now have one.
They need to interact with other kids. Why
But
can't
it's
you see
falling
that?
apart.
Going, and that's final.
Teresa's obsessed with her children and won't let them out of her sight.
You're so beautiful.
Pasquale has moved out, and he files for full custody. The war of the Riggis is about to take a tragic turn.
She phoned Pasquale Riggi at 11:30 at night
Are you planning on taking the children away
and
from me?
asked him, "Are you trying to take my children away from me?" His reply was, "Well, you've left me with no choice." And she said,
Say goodbye then.
she hung up the phone.
On August 4th, 2010, Teresa takes family law into her own hands. Turning on 8-year-old Austin.
It is utterly shocking when you think about what these kids must have experienced, what they must have seen, and how desperate they must have felt. It is utterly horrific.
One by one, Teresa chases down her children.
They saw her coming, they tried to stop her. She probably chased them around the apartment. Each of them saw her doing this.
Each of the children was stabbed 8 times, mostly in the chest, but in other parts of their bodies, in the hands and on the arms. In killing the children, she used 3 different knives.
The last one to die saw their 2 siblings killed by her. It's one of the worst murder scenes I can think of.
There was blood everywhere in the house, in the bathroom, in the kitchen, at the breakfast bar, on the oven hob. It was a scene of carnage.
If Teresa couldn't have her children, nobody could.
I think there was anger and revenge at Pasquale involved in how she killed her children. You think I'm not serious? Watch this. You think you can take my children? Watch this. This is a very, very deadly woman.
But the senseless brutality isn't over. Teresa starts on herself.
Slashing her throat a number of times, stabbing herself in the chest and abdomen.
She's intent on dying with her children, but just can't seem to pull it off.
There were 2 separate ligatures hanging from the 2nd floor landing, one a dressing gown cord, the other a pair of hair straighteners.
After unsuccessfully stabbing, then strangling herself, Teresa turns to fire.
She then started an explosion in the house by disconnecting the gas hob.
But still, Teresa is alive. She resorts to the apartment balcony.
She was seen to climb on the railing by neighbors, swayed for around a minute, shouted, "I can't believe what's happening to me."
My children!
Don't jump!
Oh, God!
And then threw herself off that 2nd floor balcony.
But a car breaks her fall. Teresa is rushed to the hospital and survives. The small Scottish town of Skene is in disbelief. The family that kept to themselves has been decimated.
To think about what that must have been like for them, at their age, trying to understand why their mother, who they loved with all their hearts, was hurting them so badly. I can't begin to wrap my head around that.
Teresa never planned to answer for her crimes. She thought she'd be dead.
Number one, she was diagnosed as being narcissistic. Number two, she was diagnosed as being paranoid. And number three, she was diagnosed with histrionic personality disorder. This is a condition in where the person thrives on extreme drama.
Despite the diagnosis, Scottish authorities deemed Teresa competent to stand trial. She pleads guilty to 3 counts of culpable murder and is sentenced to 16 years.
I think it wasn't long enough what she was sentenced to, because it wasn't even the sum total of how long they had lived.
Teresa thought of her children as possessions, who she would rather destroy than share. She leaves a stricken husband and a community in shock. All Teresa has now are her deadly deeds.
Teresa Riggi has never expressed any remorse. Psychiatrists who have examined her say that she continues to believe that God was calling her and her children home.
What Teresa wanted was to make her husband pay and suffer the rest of his life over what she did. And making her husband suffer was more important than the life she had created.
The police are there to serve and protect.
What occurs is any police officer's worst nightmare.
Every day they risk their own lives to keep others safe.
Stand against the car, man.
It only takes one well-placed bullet to kill someone.
But who looks out for them?
She should not be in jail. She should have been put to death.
Confrontations are part of 25-year-old Andrea Hicks Jackson's everyday life. And her drinking problem in the 1980s isn't helping the Florida wife.
Alcohol released Andrea's inhibitions, and when she was drunk, she was a terror.
Her domestic life with husband Sheldon is volatile.
Yo, I'm drinking. Yo, come on, get up. Get your hands off me.
But Andrea has little trust in men. They bring back bad memories.
Andrea was raped at the age of 10, badly enough to be hospitalized, and she never got the psychiatric care she needed. From that moment forward, Andrea was looking for someone to pay for that crime.
29-year-old beat cop Gary Bevel is well respected among his peers.
Hey man, how are you doing? Good. You guys heard about the new community center? Finished yet?
Gary Bevel was the type of person that anybody who met him just automatically loved him. He was a great man, very caring, just went out of his way to help people.
You guys should go and check it out, okay? Check it out, right? Sounds good. Hey guys.
He was very well liked in his community, very active in programs for children, very liked throughout the department. I mean, he was an outstanding officer, and he was an officer that everybody else looked up to.
Car troubles are an everyday problem. But it's enough to send the volatile Andrea over the edge. On May 16th, 1983, 2 very different lives will collide over this everyday problem.
When Andrea flew into a rage, it was a blind rage.
Candice Jackson actually smashed the heck out of her car, the windows and everything, because she was mad because the place she had bought the car from would not fix the car. And so she decided, well, what the heck? I'm just going to demolish it, and then it'll be somebody else's problem.
She causes the damage, but she wants the insurance company to pay for it. So Andrea calls the police and blames local thugs. Officer Bevel is on the night shift when he gets the call.
The call that Officer Bevel received was just a routine call. That's why nothing really got him scared, or he wasn't in fear of anything happening. It was just a routine call that every officer responds to hundreds, millions of times.
Officer Bevel, 20-month rookie, rolls up on the scene, finds a car with windows broken out, and starts interviewing Andrea Hicks Jackson, who says she's the owner of the car.
Somebody smashed my car.
Andrea sticks to her lie that local thugs wrecked her ride. Officer Bevel has no reason not to believe her. He allows her to go into her house to get her car registration. What Officer Bevel doesn't know is Andrea has been in trouble before with the law.
Andrea Hicks Jackson did have a criminal history involving drugs and other assorted crimes.
Andrea had been in trouble, but they were non-violent crimes, mostly misdemeanors.
The last thing Andrea wants is to go back to jail. She will do anything to stay out.
Now, before she came downstairs, we had a witness who described her, Andrea Hicks Jackson, as putting a gun in her waist and walking down the stairs.
She did it. I saw the whole thing. She said this is her car.
Before Andrea returns, a neighbor comes forward.
She was smashing up that glass in the trunk and all that.
Neighbors came forward and said, we actually observed Andrea Hicks Jackson demolish the car. The person that you need to be looking at is Andrea Hicks Jackson.
Officer Bevel believes the neighbors and not Andrea. He's convinced she's made a false statement.
When Hicks Jackson comes back, Officer Bevel apparently informs her that she is now going to be cited for filing a false police report and starts trying to bring her back to his police cruiser. She starts struggling with him.
It's exactly what Andrea doesn't want to happen. Now she has to make a big decision.
Andrea Hicks Jackson was such a mean and evil person that she didn't want to go back to jail no matter what. And she was going to take whatever steps necessary to ensure that.
You made me drop my keys. Where your keys? You found my keys.
1983, Jacksonville, Florida.
Somebody smashed my car.
Can you prove this is your car?
Rookie police officer Gary Bevel questions 25-year-old Andrea Jackson over her wrecked car.
You have some ID?
Yeah? Why?
Can you go and get it for me?
She claims vandals have done it. But Officer Bevel knows the truth.
She'd been caught. She'd been caught in a lie. She'd been caught vandalizing her car. She'd been caught lying to this police officer. She was in trouble. She knew she was in trouble. What makes it even worse is that she leaves to go get her identification, and she returns with a gun. So now what's going through her head? Why would she bring a gun back down to an incident where she had vandalized a car? So now she's thinking in advance, I'm not going to jail.
Stand against the car, man. You are under arrest.
Officer Bevel attempts to arrest Andrea for filing a false police report.
He was putting her in the back of the police car, arresting her for vandalism, and she was reluctant to get into the car.
She started hitting Officer Bevel in the chest. So Andrea Hicks Jackson became aware that Officer Bevel was wearing a bulletproof vest.
But a vest can only protect Officer Bevel's vital organs.
He tries to put her in the car. He opens the back seat door, and he puts her in the car. When she sits down in the car, she then states to Officer Bevel, you made me drop something. I dropped my keys. Officer Bevel bent down. He was wearing a ball cap at that time, so his line of sight was obstructed.
Andrea aims where there's no protection.
She grabbed her gun and just methodically just shot him. She shot him 4 times in the top of the head. And then the other 2 shots hit, I believe, the collarbone and then part of the chest. It was a brutal execution-style murder. That's the best way to describe it.
You don't survive 5 bullet holes to the head very often. It's a rarity. 1 maybe, not 5.
She was an evil woman, a cold-blooded murder. Andrea Hicks Jackson was the type of woman that was a threat to anybody who crossed her.
Andrea flees the scene and convinces a friend to take her in.
The friend observes that Andrea Jackson's got blood on her hands and on her body, so they wash her clothes. They then call a cab so that she can get out of town.
Andrea seems to be looking for another victim.
She was in the backseat of the cab and then pulled the gun and tried to rob the cab driver.
Give me your money. What are you doing? I said, give me your money. What are you doing, you crazy?
He managed to get the gun, but then dropped it. She picked it up, and as he fled the scene, she fired a few pot shots at him.
Andrea fires off 2 rounds, but misses. Left on the side of the road, the only thing Andrea can think to do is go back home.
They actually arrested her, and she ended up struggling and fighting with the officers, but they also found the murder weapon.
Andrea's defense for shooting Officer Bevel is she didn't want to be manhandled because of her past abuse.
They were trying to say that she was an abused woman and had been abused as a child, and that she was reacting due to this abuse.
But the investigators believe her motivation is much simpler.
Calm down, Ma. Calm down.
I ain't going nowhere.
Andrea Hicks Jackson's motive was clear-cut. She did not want to go back to jail. This was a cold-blooded murder, and there's no other way to describe it.
You made me drop my kids.
This was an execution, and she meant to do this.
On February 10th, 1984, the jury decide that she should be executed in return.
The execution of a police officer is the most brutal of all murders.
On appeal, her sentence is commuted to life in prison. Much to the dismay of those who served with Officer Bevel.
She should not be in jail. She should be on death row, and by now, almost going on 20 years, she should have been put to death.
The most upsetting part of this case is the fact that Gary Bevel is no longer among us. The fact that such an innocent, charming, just thoughtful police officer is not walking among us. How he could have made the difference in so many people's lives.